IVM.
Hi, everybody. On behalf of the team at IVM Podcast, I have a request for you. We'd really appreciate it if you could go to ivmpodcast.com/survey and fill out our survey over there. It's going to take a few minutes to do, but it gives us some really interesting information that we can take to advertisers and brands about who's listening to the network. If you're comfortable giving us your email address, while you're filling out the survey, we'll enter you into a random drawing where we'll be sending out a bunch of IVM swag to some of our listeners. Last year we sent out coffee mugs, and this year we're hoping to send out much cooler stuff. That's ivmpodcast.com/survey. We really appreciate your help.
Hello, everybody. Good day, good day.
Hi, Tash. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Banakli. How are you, my love?
A little distracted, to be very honest.
By what?
Because this episode we were supposed to record a while back, and so my notes are from a while back, and I did not have time to look at them before we started recording. So
That's okay. You can go through them quickly while I regale our listeners with an entertaining anecdote
excellent.
about how I am a lazy, procrastinating, upset puppy. So it's been a rough 2 days, and again, it's just me whining because I got my period right now, like 2 hours ago.
Amazing.
So I think everything was leading up to this moment, and yesterday, for some unexplained reason, I just felt low and sad, and nothing was going right. Even though I was happy on the outside, on the inside, I was unhappy. Yeah, that was me yesterday. And then this morning also, I woke up feeling sad. Then my mom came to the room and she was like, "What happened?" And I was like, "I don't know, I'm feeling sad today." And she was like, "Oh, maybe it's the weather." Speaking of, it's been raining recently. What the hell, guys?
Okay, I've read my notes.
Excellent.
Because
I was really enjoying talking to myself.
I was just going to say, this was not a entertaining anecdote.
I had to sell it, na. The reality is different. It's like expectation versus reality.
We've hemorrhaged listeners in the first 2 minutes.
No, Ayushi, I think they enjoyed it.
Yeah,
you can't say we've hemorrhaged them because you're saying I have hemorrhaged them. You were so quiet.
Because I was not prepared, so it's equally both our faults.
Nahi, theek hai. I love it. I love this energy you're coming with today. Guns and roses, all guns and roses blazing.
Today's the first day in, I think, about a month and a half that I've actively worked from home.
Nice.
So I just put on a t-shirt. My hair is so greasy. I'm wearing glasses. I wasn't truly prepared for this, but having
feels
said
like early
that,
days of pandemic.
Yes, I have gone. Today feels like an early day of pandemic.
Does that mean you're going to take a nap today, Ayushi? The public wants to know.
Oh my God. Do you remember how much I was napping in the first 2 months of the lockdown?
Matlab, listeners, she had gone mad. Every day I would call her or message her and she would either be falling into a nap or just coming out of a nap. Madam sirf roz nap le rahi thi. It was a whole other world. It was really
so happy. I was so rested. I have never rested that way in my life. And every day I thought that tomorrow I won't take a nap. But then tomorrow would roll around and it would be like
the nap has crept up on you.
And I would commit to the naps. Like I would work out after them, but I would wake up and it was that groggy where you don't know what time it is. And I think we all didn't know what to do or what to expect. And I was like, there's a pandemic. It was so weird, but my mouth is just filled with spit because I was so excited at the idea of my nap.
I was actually closing my eyes right now and visualizing a nap. Even though I'm not tired today. I didn't even exercise. I just couldn't do anything.
It's not about that. A nap is not, nap is just, a nap can bring you joy like none other. I was a huge anti-napper. Like I'm against naps. I think naps are a Sunday thing that should be reserved because it's very lazy. It's very indulgent. But guys.
You're a convert now.
I don't think I like any activity during the week as much as I like napping.
Yeah. I think, okay, why don't we do a special episode about the benefits of napping?
I will do the most amount of research I've ever done in my whole life. In
I
fact,
think
I'll do
so.
physical research. I will take naps. And I will,
Yes.
that's all I want to do. Can we do our end of year episode will be an ode to sleep. And we'll practice sleeping.
Yes. On that note, what are we talking about today? Should we tell our listeners?
Right. Today's episode is about, as the title would have suggested, it is about pressure. But this pressure is a very specific kind of pressure that we wanted to talk about, because not only did we get a lot of DMs about this, it's also something that you and I have discussed and have from time to time felt. It is the pressure of marriage at a certain age and the pressure of having children at a certain age. What did I tell you about volume today?
What did I tell you about volume?
Yeah, you told
today?
me to make it low. Of course, it sounds like this episode is geared more towards women, but it's not. I think
not at all. I think these things are pan-gender.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate that child rearing burden, the pressure to have kids kind of thing does. I mean, let's be honest, women carry the most of that pressure. It's just fact. But that's only because they procreate. Like, that's the reason. If men were doing it, I think we'd pressure them. Like, it doesn't make a difference. But there is a crazy amount of pressure in our society to get married, to have children. It's socialized into us in a way that's very deep and intense, that any sort of deviance from this is seen as rebellious or offbeat or different, whereas it's not. It's just a different choice.
Correct.
And it's because we've made marriage so much the norm, which is fine. I'm not against it. I'm just saying, because we've made it so much the norm, anything that's not it seem like, oh, you're a deviant. And I'm like, I'm really not a deviant. I think most of us conform to the basic structures of society and rules and norms and, life journeys and pathways. But just because you are taking a slightly not even slightly, you're going it at your own speed, it's like, my God, she's a rebel.
That's really not. Really not, but I think a lot of that is happening now with our generation, at least certain pockets of society where it is being normalized to not take the pressure or be under that pressure or even have those conversations at home.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, it's shocking. In India, 27% of girls are married before their 18th birthday.
That's not a good number.
And 7% of women in India are married before their 15th birthday.
I'm sorry, what?
Yes, I'm not kidding. And it's because...
Isn't that illegal 100%?
Oh, no, the 100% illegal.
100%.
But that obviously doesn't stop people.
इनको लोग पकड़ नहीं रहे हैं. For other small grievances, people are running after people. And for such a big crime,
it is
nobody
a crime.
Is being caught.
It's a crime against the person. It's a crime against... It is a crime against humanity. You're not...
Absolutely.
It's not right. You cannot be married at that age. And it's not about me saying that, never mind there's no excuse. That's it.
No.
15, that's insane.
So that's 7% women. Shit, man.
Yeah, because...
And 27% are getting married before 18.
Before the age of 18. They are married off before their 18th birthday. And the thing is, it's this idea that India has, and it's kind of a word that even comes up in proper research and statistical evidence, is pariah dhan. The idea that women are pariah dhan. So so there's two things to it. Is A, why should you keep... I mean, a woman is going to be married off into another household. So there's no need to invest in her. And that is in the form of education, opportunity, just awareness to have more in her life than just marriage. And then the other thing is, she's a pariah dhan, and the younger you get your daughter married, the cheaper it is. Because when your daughter gets older and older, the dowry or the bride price for an older unmarried girl is way higher.
Of course, I didn't think about it that way.
Yeah, and these are the reasons why. Because people, I mean, obviously there's been so much research done on this, not just by the government, but also by human rights agencies, by women's groups. And the government, it's definitely a problem. They admit it as well.
I thought it would be like the reverse, that people would want her to get married little later so they have more time to earn more money for the wedding.
No, because it's cheaper. Yeah, okay,
Yeah, I
I
mean,
see your point, but I'm trying to say that what the kind of ground perception
as
is.
as least damaged as she is, quote unquote. So the fresher of the,
Yeah, and the minute
oh my
it's kind of like the
God.
minute she hits, what
She
is it?
gets her first
Yeah,
period. After
menses,
that, it's
it's
like,
like
chalo,
game over.
game over. Bole to, game
And
over.
interestingly enough, though, there is a statistic in India. It's like women with no educational opportunities are 6 times more likely to get married than women with 10 plus years of education. So you are significantly disadvantaged when you don't have access to education, opportunities, adequate healthcare, all this kind of exposure, and then you will, like I'm saying, 6 times more likely to get married.
That's crazy. Actually, I was at a wedding recently and I did, like, this topic did come up, and some of the youths at this wedding, really young kids, they were like 17, 18, 20, and it was the bride's cousins, and
Mm.
also the 15-year-old cousin who was a girl. They were like, literally, the only way to save this country is to make sure everyone has the opportunity to like study and equal rights to get educated, because what's the difference between a girl like me and a girl from a village? It's literally that, no, that you're not getting the opportunity to study only, and if you don't, then everything starts and ends there. You can't think for yourself, you can't speak for yourself, you can't do anything for
Because you
yourself.
unfortunately don't know better. And I think we've said it before 1,001 times on this show, personally to each other. Education is the silver bullet. It is what
You are
will
right.
save us and what will take us to the next level of being a developed, population when it
Yeah.
comes to, and I don't mean developed in terms of infrastructure, I mean developed
No,
in terms
no.
of mentality.
Growth, mental
Yeah,
in
exactly.
growth, which is the most lacking thing, I feel. जब तक mindset नहीं बदलेगा तब तक कुछ नहीं बदलेगा.
However, and I will say it's, we put this blame and this idea when you say the statistic, the idea immediately that's conjured up to you is of the rural Indian woman. And it's of the women who are living in small towns and small
Yeah,
villages, and that's
but
it. But
that's not
that's
the
not
whole
the
truth,
case.
na?
Like it is a very, very
Yeah.
normal and pervasive problem in our society, where whether it's women from educated backgrounds, like we know people who the minute they graduated college, immediately their parents were looking for matches for them, where it was like, yeah, but she's got educated, which was like this massive concession that, yeah, we let you do it. We let you, study, enjoy yourself. And now you're 21. It's time to get married.
Yeah.
And there were people who were okay with it, who were okay to just say that, okay, this is my life. I don't know whether you can say resigned, because that's like you're speaking for someone else, but you accepted it. A lot of people accept this as
And I
their
think a lot of
reality.
families like this, like the kind of family you're speaking
Yeah,
about, the women who are born into these households, also from a very early age, I think
exactly.
have grown up seeing that this is the kind of life one has to live once one graduates. This is the only option for me. So no need to even think outside of that box.
And there is that idea that if you have been raised and grown up in a comfortable environment with certain amount of privilege, some people might not even want to fight it, because it's like, why?
Yeah.
This life has been good to me so far.
Yeah.
I can continue this. But again, it comes down to awareness, exposure, and putting yourself in a situation where you've been given the support. And I don't mean financially. Sometimes so I think the sad thing is, in the situation where you have the financial support to go study and do these things, you need a mentality kind of support in your environment that pushes you to be like, there is more to you than just immediately getting married. And that's not to say that if once you get married, you can't achieve, and women in marriages are not achieving. That's bullshit.
But then again, it comes down to the mentality that supports that. No, how many mentalities are supporting women achieving their dreams post marriage?
Right. And that's today, that's the deterrent that you are seeing in this young generation of this quote unquote modern women that are pushing the marriage age later and later. This like, oh, now women get married way later. It's this fear sometimes that I might have progressed, but some parts of society haven't. So what if when I get married, I lose freedom, I lose opportunity to work, I lose my idea of ambition, my support system, and this idea that I now will have to play the role of wife, mother, daughter-in-law, and those things after young girls have, put themselves through school, jobs, are working, it scares you. So now modern women, and this is something that again has been, even like magazines like Vogue and Elle have done these kind of surveys and stuff. It's to see why young women in urban cities would also like to push the marriage date, is because they feel that nahi, shaadi karke bacche karne ho gaya hai, mujhe kaam karna hai. Like I want to work.
Yeah, so that pressure the pressure which starts with chalo ab shaadi kar le, phir within a year or two it's like chalo bacche paida kar lo.
And the expectation is immediate.
Yeah, so you at max people get a year, I feel, from conservative households. At max, depends on the age you've gotten married. So if you've gotten married at 24, 25, theek hai. For 2-3 years they might let you live. But God forbid you get married at 29. Finish.
And look, so again, this conversation has been a little unstructured so far, but I'd like to, no.
Are you shaming me?
No. I'm saying we've gotten into it because we both have thoughts on this in a very specific way. But I do think that to just deconstruct this conversation a little bit or distill it into two things is that pressure of marriage and then that bridge that becomes pressure to have children. Now, while we're talking about this pressure to have children, there are so many facets to it. It's like if you have decided to not have children, you're immediately branded as some sort of like social pariah. You're a horrible human being. And specifically women who decide not to have children or who would like to hold off before having children are seen as, cold, stone-hearted, unemotional, detached, because the idea of a woman is so connected to the idea of her being a maternal figure.
Yeah.
And you're a woman, you're 30 years old. I mean, biology dictates that you should want to nurture. You should want to take care of a child. You should want to procreate, all of that stuff. Whereas like today, if I started my career at 27 because I was studying or hustling or whatever,
yeah.
You think in 3 years I'm going to have a child? And then again, it ties up to the third thing is that why is it the minute a woman has a child, her work-life balance is just not maintainable? Is because you built a society that doesn't support or promote working mothers.
Yeah.
And so I think this conversation of under pressure, it's so convoluted because at every step that you think that, okay, we've achieved a little bit more here, we've come a little further, there is still one more barrier that's still stopping you.
Yeah.
And that's so frustrating, and you can understand why that kind of frustration can lead to things like depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, postpartum depression, because these are where all this stuff comes from. And there were some studies to say that why is it that postpartum has now become a way more common thing than before? And
I think it probably was always around. It's just people speak about it more now,
so there's two factors. Is that A, you weren't allowed to entertain the idea of postpartum because it was completely like brushed under the carpet of like, what's wrong with you? You can't be sad. You've just had a kid.
Yeah.
But the other thing, unfortunately, is like research shows, and they did this poll study in UK, which was kind of like women have started to, at some level, resent childbirth because of what it means to their academic or professional growth. And even if you don't want to, these things pervade your psyche, and it does dictate the way that you will interact with a child.
That's so true.
And
because
it's so sad.
Yeah. Because you want to, I'm just putting my thoughts out there. You want to be like a fully functional, ambitious, successful career person. And at some level also, of course, you want to nurture.
Be a loving mother. You've had a kid. No one's saying no to that.
Yeah, but I think it's because there's only been such a focus on this half of it since time immemorial. Literally. My favorite phrase.
Literally.
So there is literally no rule book on how to balance, or not even balance, but to in your own measures, live both of these realities and have a wholesome, happy reality in both of these places. And I think maybe that's what is the conversation that's worth having also at some point. Ki, like, what are the new rules? How does a woman cope with the guilt? Or because recently, yesterday, in fact, I read a post somebody had put up. So she has 2 young kids, but she's an entrepreneur. She has a startup, and her daughter is like 10 months or something like that. So she's like, I'm always guilty. I always just feel guilty.
Absolutely.
What is it about being a woman and just feeling guilty all the time about if I'm working too much or I'm not spending time with my kids? If I'm spending time with my one kid, I'm not giving attention to the other kid.
Or if
If
you've
I'm
chosen a life of motherhood, you're seen as lesser. You're seen as not accomplished. You're seen as, oh, she's just a homemaker. She's just a mother. She's just a wife. And how do you, I mean, you're right. The guilt is endless. And no matter what you do, you're guilty.
That's the thing. And like, I want to remove the guilt from women somehow. I just want us to not feel guilty.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Should we take a break on that note
Yeah,
and
because-
slide back in?
Yeah, of course.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you're not following us on social media, don't you think it's about time you started? We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I wanted to kind of just give a quick reminder to everybody. As I mentioned up top, we are doing our annual listener survey right now. If you could please go and take a couple of minutes out of your day and fill it out, we would really, really appreciate it. It's ivmpodcast.com/survey. If you're comfortable giving us your email address, we'll enter you into a random drawing, and we're going to be sending out swag to a bunch of randomly selected listeners. So do definitely get on board that train. Let me tell you a little bit about what we did on the network this week. We launched a new show called Zindagi Diaries with Ragini Kumar. Many of you might have seen Ragini on television during the IPL. She's a presenter, but she's showing a different side of herself over here with a poetry podcast. Give it a shot, give it a listen. Let me know what you all think. Vishal Gondal is back this week after a while. He's been on an extended break, but he has Rahul Narvekar for the first episode. Really interesting conversation. Do check it out. Raji Saman joins Gauri Devidayal on This Round Is On Me. The two talk about the wine business and what's going on there. We had a number of conversations about the Farmers Bill and the surrounding agitation this week on the network as well. Maruk Inayat had a great episode on the note. Pulyabazi did a deep dive into the issues around this. And on Siders, we have our typical, fun conversation about this stuff with a little bit of a seriousness, a little bit of fun. Do check that out on Cock and Bull on Thursday last week. Akash Mehta joined us for that episode. And with that, let me get you back to your show.
Welcome back to Under Pressure.
Yeah, we were talking about this guilt thing, about how guilt kind of we carry it on a day-to-day basis. It's really funny because they did this. There was an article written that it was one of those like thought pieces, but it kind of made me think, lol. Yes, which is about this guilt is, interestingly enough, it's not men that make women feel sad or inadequate about having children. It's usually women themselves. And those women come from your friend circle, your family circle, or your peer group and society in general. And then and this is specifically with, say, childbirth, right? Which is like, you see people around you, you're getting older, you're developing, you're getting a bit more mature, and your clock is tick-tocking. It's sad.
Yes.
But there's this phase of where single childless women are seen as, they lack empathy, or they don't have the ability to now relate to women who have children, where it's like, because all that women who have children do is like, oh, just you wait till you have children. Your life is going to change. You're never going to feel love the way you don't know love till you've had a child.
I think that's another big. Yeah.
You don't know.
And
I'm sure
it is true. I'm sure it is true to a certain degree. At the end of the day, your cells have made a human being in your body and you've pushed it out. I have mad respect for the miracle of life.
Of course.
But
single women are expected to not only be jealous of women with children, but they're also supposed to be wildly empathetic about the fact that it's an ongoing struggle to have a child and to rear it effectively. Because then, and so this resentment that kind of is like this reverse psychology of resentment is that not only have you been pressured into like, oh, you're so unhappy. You must be so unhappy that you are single and childless at this age. But also you have to admit that my life is way harder than yours because I have kids.
Yeah, that's so true.
And this is a thing that happens. And this is how
I'm sure.
And, you know, I didn't think about it till I read this thing and I was like, it's really this woman on woman pressure that.
Yeah. Like in real life also, I feel worse about things my female friends would say to me in terms of even positive feedback or constructive criticism. Things like that men in my life would say to me, I'll be like, yeah, shut up. Not always, but little bit like.
Because our empowerment has brought us here. We're like, I don't need a man. But the problem is our need to be accepted by our own peer group, which sometimes is the gender bucket of, say, childbearing women, is that we put this pressure on each other as well. And that's like, if we are doing this to ourselves, girls, we have to stop. First of all, you don't know why a person is not having a kid. Infertility is a massive thing.
Yeah.
Not wanting to have a child is a real valid thing.
Yeah.
Financially not being ready to have a child is a responsible decision to be made.
Absolutely.
So these are so many different things that tie into this idea of why is a 32-year-old or a 33-year-old not wanting to have a kid?
And, you know, it's like even in the simplest, smallest ways to make somebody feel bad about it or just be like, firstly, the highlighting of age, I feel unnecessary, unimportant. If a person wants to have children, they'll figure their own things out. You don't need to be concerned about that.
Maybe just focus on your kid if it's giving you that much stress. Focus on your kid.
तुम अपने बच्चे पे ध्यान दो.
I am taking care of myself. I am baby.
Literally. I'm really upset that it is unfortunately like even within the community of
us,
sisterhood, of womanhood, that these battles are existing. So yeah, you said this is not an episode only for women at the start. It's not, but I think a large
I wanted to just make us as women realize what we are doing to each other as well. That's kind of important.
It's not nice. I think it's important if the idea is ki honestly, if one of us succeeds, all of us succeed.
Absolutely. And the same logic goes with dating as well, or being in a relationship. Like as someone who's in a friend group, which is predominantly now dating people, as the only single person, unfortunately or fortunately, there is a lot of like, oh, you know what? You should do this because I think that's how you're going to meet someone. Oh, you should talk to this dude. And it's this immediate thing that just because everyone else is coupled up,
that means you should also just find somebody and just grab their hand and bring them to the next bloody friend's dinner. No.
And it's like there has to, and what happens again for people like myself is that at no point are you unhappy for your friends in their loving, supportive relationships.
Correct.
I'm so blessed to be with friends who have good partnerships. Like I don't see any like, oh, that's just a waste of your time as well. There are good partnerships and I admire it. But this pressure that just because you are all partnered up, that obviously must mean I must be desperate to be wanting to be partnered up. And even if there are moments where you yourself are thinking, oh, it is time I found a partner, or it's time that I shared my life with someone else, the immediate becomes like, yeah, obviously you must be thinking it now. Look, all your friends are dating. You must be thinking it. It's like, I'm not thinking it because everyone else is together. I'm thinking it because now I feel I'm in the space to open up my life for another person.
Yeah.
This is what I mean by we do it to ourselves. So catch yourself when you find that thought crossing your mind. Think twice before saying it. That's all I'm saying.
I did. I also caught myself actually, not about talking or saying anything to anybody, but feeling a certain way also. So when you're on a dance floor and suddenly a slow song starts and the DJ is like, all the couples in the house. At first, my instinct was to shout at DJ, being like, no!
Listen, we have to let the couples live their life. Do it.
Exactly.
Go
So
dance,
then I
my
was
friend.
like, I was standing at the periphery of this dance floor, enjoying the love, just clapping, swaying. It's a nice moment to take the pressure off also and be like, ठीक है, अभी मेरे पास couple नहीं है, I can enjoy this.
And
Otherwise,
there we have the capacity. Come on, and whether it's a man, woman, whatever all across, everyone has a human capacity to look at people who are happy and feel joy for them. You
yes,
don't have to.
that's important.
Yes, and I'm telling you, the minute you start feeling happier for someone else and respectful of their life choices, you and your own respect for yourself and your life choices will grow so much that you will be stronger in dealing with this kind of pressure that seems to be like all around us and closing in.
It's like that there's a term in Israeli culture. It's a Hebrew word called firgun. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Mm-hmm.
Firgun. But literally it means genuine, unselfish delight or pride in the accomplishment of the other. And it's just a generosity of spirit.
That's so beautiful.
I think that can extend to every aspect of life also.
And if we focus more on that and, commending the choices and moves and whatever that your peer group, your family, everyone is making, that joy, and I know this sounds really like wishy-washy, but that joy will be returned to you in some way. Like it is a cycle. It will come back to you when you give love, you will get it. And if you put pressure on yourself and you put pressure on other people, that is going to come back to you as well.
Yes. My mom sent a very nice forward this morning. Damn it. Should I just quickly find it and share it with you all?
Of course.
Why not? Mummy, where is mummy? Good results are generated at the end of the day only if good thoughts are generated at the beginning of the day.
But this is true. Like whether it's to find a partner, whether it's to not find one, whether it's to work, whatever it is, whatever the pressure you are putting yourself through, if you are lumping this negative energy on yourself, what do you expect the rest of the world around you to project onto you?
Absolutely. And also, at this moment, I'd like to just touch upon even young people who are possibly questioning sexuality, possibly not sure about what they want in terms of their sexual journey or their romantic lives.
Yeah.
All of these places that we are at, every single one of us is unique to every person's journey and is equally valid and equally normal. Just because nobody is better than anybody for having gotten married or figuring out that they're gay or figuring out that they want a kid. None of it.
You're so right, and thanks for reminding me, because it didn't cross my mind, and I guess this is one of those things where because you're straight, it just doesn't cross your mind, is that there are hundreds of young people who are being forced into relationships or forced into being socialized and growing up in a way that maybe that doesn't reflect their true identity, their place on the spectrum. And that's a whole other ball of pressure that could be playing on someone's mind. And
absolutely, because for example, you're 30 years old, but you've still not figured it out for yourself. Am I into men? Am I into women? What's the scene? Am I into anybody? Is that a thing? Like, the sexual spectrum is also so vast and we are not aware about it.
But that is pressure. That is pressure that you put on yourself at 30, because society is screaming at you to settle down, procreate, make babies, and that only if you do this will you be happy. That's
Which is absolutely not true. Ayushi and I are debunking that myth today.
You get to decide what your happiness looks like.
Absolutely. And luckily now with the internet, there is a lot more information and community safe spaces. Listeners, honestly, take it from me. Even if you sometimes feel like your immediate friend group does not understand or does not get a certain part of your personality, or
I don't know where you are going with this.
There is a whole community out there where you will be able to find your tribe or even one or two people who really understand you. And I think that's worth looking for on the internet. Yeah, explore it. Because it's not like you're alone in this world. So that's for sure. Again, very important. You are not alone.
You will find a freak like you.
We are all freaks. That's the best part. Yeah.
But on this kind of upbeat note, I'd like to say something in the favor of,
Pressure.
no, but about marriage. So Paul Dolan, who is the head of Department of Behavioral Science and Psychology at LSE, the London School of Economics, and he's a director of the Executive Master's Program in Behavioral Psychology. He's a best-selling book. He's a best-selling author. No, I'm just giving his this is his...
Paul is very much accomplished.
Yes, and his entire research has kind of really been focused on happiness and its connection to, say, marriage, children, pressure, all of these kind of things. So his book, Happily Ever After, which I read some parts of and some excerpts of, it's really funny. He said married people are happier than other subgroups, but only when asked this question when their spouse is in the room. So there's something to think about. Then he said, the general, however, statistic is that, and this is, I guess, more true for straight partnerships. Let me preface that by saying, I'm sorry, I don't have that much research on same-sex marriages, but men are happier married than women are happier married because men tend to calm down after they get married. They take less risks, they earn more, and they live longer. And these are all facts of married men. Whereas women, however, die sooner when they're married. They don't earn as much, and they take on the risk and the pressure and the stress of having a partner and guiding that partner through their life.
Because you are describing my parents as we speak. But my dad has time to go for his morning walk and enjoy everything. Who is slaving away at home, making sure you are well fed and well taken care of and your meals are on time and everything is sorted for you.
And so the moral of the story was that the healthiest and happiest subgroup are women who didn't have children or who are unmarried. Unmarried, childless women were the happiest
group. I love that.
And I was like, well, while that might not be maybe indicative of a total truth, and that's not to say that if you're married or you have kids, you're unhappy. That's
of course not. But happiness is also different types.
Exactly. I think the question is that we tend to attribute happiness as only one-dimensional, whereas it's a dice. It has 6 different sides.
Many sides.
You decide what that happiness is, whether it's 1, whether it's 6, it's okay. And they did this study of, and whether that's for your job, whether that's for your child, whether that's marriage, this was just something that came across. It was 87% of florists in the UK love their job and are happy, whereas only 64% of lawyers can say the same. And what Paul was actually doing with his research was that even happiness after a certain financial marker does not increase. And they have found that £50,000 a year, which is a lot of money anyway. What I'm trying to say is that after £50,000, the increase in happiness has nothing to do with your income.
The increase in money.
I'm sure. On that. So this, again, it opens up the conversation, privileged or unprivileged, financially, educationally, supportively, environmentally. At the end of the day, there is no short answer. It's not that money can give you this, education can give you this, access. I mean, yes, it does. It plays a huge factor, massively.
Yeah. Money can give you access, and that in turn can change your life.
Yes. And I'm not saying, no, it's not tone deaf at all. I started this by saying that, access is everything. But what I'm trying to kind of push at is that we have to take responsibility of our happiness and to not let pressure guide you.
Yeah.
I mean, pressure can push you. Pressure is good. Like sometimes when you're under pressure, you deliver
your best result.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. But
that doesn't have to mean that every decision of yours has to be under pressure.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. It reminds me of an article I read today about acting. It's not only specific to acting, though, I suppose. It's just like, take your job seriously. Don't take yourself seriously.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense.
And if we are taking all these things so seriously of earn money, get married, have kids, what we're doing is we're trying to fulfill some idea of what happiness and achievement is.
Yeah.
You're not taking yourself, you're not doing yourself any favor because you're not taking yourself seriously. I mean, you're taking yourself too seriously, sorry. That's what I was trying to say. But tell me something. What's a place where you have felt intense pressure to conform or see? Sorry, I don't like to say conform because then there's this idea of you unconforming, which is wrong. What are the experiences or some specific moment in your life where you felt pressure that just seemed unfair or frustrating?
I wouldn't take such pressure, but for me, I think the main pressure has been to lose weight.
Oh yeah,
but that's different.
No, it's not.
But
I mean,
also comes into the whole, like as a woman, you need to look attractive.
Yeah, exactly.
You to find a partner and all of that.
We
So it's kind of
touch the body image pressure. This was just about marriage and children.
Exactly, but it's like kind of all interconnected. So that was probably my main thing. But even now, I feel pressure in different ways, even in like friend groups.
Yeah.
Friend groups more than anywhere else. And I'm not talking about our very intimate friend circle. I'm talking about larger social settings.
Yeah.
Where there's a pressure to be like, no, this is the right thing to do. This is the wrong thing to do. This is the right place to go. That's not a right place to go. Come on, you have to get married. No, you can't. So there's a lot of, I feel like that kind of herd mentality pressure in social group settings, which I don't enjoy at all.
And it's that pressure of feeling almost sometimes alienated.
Yes.
Because people who, this sounds, again, no matter how I phrase this sentence, it sounds like I'm resentful. But no matter, when you are part of, say, a large group of friends and everyone is coupled up and the plans are coupled up, and after a point you find yourself being alienated from the group because it's like, oh, this was a couple thing. It was just like, oh, we were doing it as a couple thing. And you're like, it saddens me that the definition of friendship or that the role of friendship, the nature of that relationship has changed so much simply because...
Just because of the addition of a partner in that equation. Yeah,
and it's definitely... Because sometimes I feel then the pressure, like I can't stop myself from thinking, and I'm like, oh, if I was just dating someone...
If I just had somebody, yeah, exactly.
I wouldn't feel like the 11th wheel in this.
And that's such a stupid and sucky feeling to have with your bestest, closest friends as an adult. That's up.
And the minute you verbalize this, it's kind of, I don't understand how people have not been able to be, how people don't get this sometimes, where it's like, because someone says or makes a comment about a relationship doesn't mean that you resent it or you aren't happy for that person, or that you are desperate for a relationship yourself. You can make a comment which doesn't have some 900 strings attached to it,
Absolutely. And I think to normalize this also, single people chilling with couples chilling with real other single people, normal people. Like, what is this? Couples hanging with couples, singles hanging with singles. Normalize all of it.
And normalize everything, but it's lol. I think it just goes to show that we are sometimes our worst enemy.
Yeah.
And I'm talking specifically to privileged, educated, urban people who have awareness, who have been exposed to the world, who have read things, who have friends, who watch TV shows, media, everything.
All the more they should not be like this, I feel.
How have you sunk into the same thing that you and I criticize, say, our parents or grandparents for?
Yeah.
So I know that we started out by saying this is not about any specific gender or group, but just if I'm speaking to our listeners, check yourself. And check where you're making comments that could be unnecessarily hurtful, or you're putting pressure on a person that doesn't need it.
And to start with, I think the putting of pressure on oneself, because once we are aware of it within ourselves, only then can one extend it to their behavior in the outside world.
And again, I find myself having to reiterate this. I'm not against marriage. I'm not against children. I think that family is sometimes the starting block or the core of society. There are some things that it makes sense to me. But I think what I'm against is doing it for the wrong reasons and pushing yourself or pressuring yourself to succumb to something because it seems like the easiest or the right or the most timely thing to do.
Yeah.
So do what works for you best. I mean, that's harder said. It's harder said than done. We all feel it. Like I said, my own pressure has crossed my own mind, being like, I think maybe it's time you have someone, look at everyone around you.
Yeah. Honestly, Ayushi, yeah, I mean, we could go on and on about this, but literally it's like if somebody gets married suddenly, even if you are just in a casual, like not casual, but in a slightly whatever serious, semi-serious relationship, if you go for the wedding, you're suddenly like, should I be getting married also? Like you've attended a wedding for 5 days and come back and start thinking, okay, maybe we should be having a conversation about it. But no.
Oh, I'm such a happy bar person at the wedding.
You know, I think that's the best place to be at a wedding, at the bar.
Y'all, if any of y'all see me at a wedding and I'm at the bar, feel free to come up and say hi. I love it. I make friends. I'm there for a reason.
Yes.
Anyway, on that note,
thank you for this lovely episode, Aisha. I had a fun time chatting with you. I think there's a lot more to unpack also.
Yeah, I think we can revisit pressure in some time. It feels age appropriate.
Dude, abhi to 30 hit karenge 2 saal mein alag pressure hoga. We'll see what happens then.
Feeling like a pressure cooker, and the pressure cooker has just gone off in my house actually.
CT!
All
okay,
right.
friends, if you enjoyed this podcast, you know what to do. Find us everywhere.
You can find another interesting podcasts on ivmpodcast.com or the IVM app, or you can follow them on Instagram and Twitter on IVM Podcast, at IVM Podcast. You can find Tash on Instagram at RYTASH, and you can find me on Instagram at AyushiA9, and Twitter is at JustAyushi.
Okay.
Thank you for the privilege of your time.
Mwah.
What are some of the radical changes that are now shaping our workspace? With physical distancing and heightened safety protocols being the norm, will technology finally make its large-scale entry to the workspace? Will design as we know it change for the long term? Is it possible for the Indian commercial real estate space to adopt a 360-degree approach to sustainability? Join our hosts at the Future of Space podcast by RMZ as we deliberate with industry leaders, analysts, and bright young minds on the way forward for the workspace given the new COVID normal. Tune in to the IVM Podcasts app or wherever you stream your favorite podcasts.
जिंदगी डायरीज के पन्नों में कुछ पुरानी यादें, समुंदर किनारे झूमते दरख्त, जवान दिल की धड़कनें और अनजान मुलाकातें हैं। तो आइए खोलिए मेरे साथ जिंदगी डायरी के पन्ने और साथ ही खुलकर जीते हैं जिंदगी। आप सुन सकते हैं जिंदगी डायरीज IVM पॉडकास्ट ऐप या वेबसाइट पर, या जहां कहीं से भी आप अपने पॉडकास्ट सुनते हो।